Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. I did not finish this project last night, so this is going to be on the bench for the rest of the week because I needed to order a few more things. And maybe we'll talk about that on Friday or Monday, depending on when things show up. But today I got a question from a friend. My friend Dennis asked a simple question that I think we've touched on before. Here, I'll read the question. He said, "Do you think reading is a skill to be practiced? Is that how you can read so much?" So I told Dennis that I have read 60-some books this year, and he was kind of floored. And that's reading. Like, that's not listening to books while I'm doing something else. That's just me sitting, opening a book, and reading it. I've not listened to any of those. And I think that, yes, obviously, I think that reading is a skill that can be practiced. But I think it's a little different than maybe what you're thinking. Because I don't think that, yes, learning to read, learning to assemble letters into meaning, and then extracting that meaning from the things that you're reading, that is a obvious skill. That's something that you have to learn and maybe even what's it called? Remediate throughout your life, or that skill could atrophy. You could lose the ability to learn or to maintain kind of your internal diary, or not diary, internal dictionary of words can atrophy. You can lose, like, I don't know what that means anymore, where you knew it once before. So obviously, like, the literal transforming of symbologies into words, in groups of words, into meanings, that is a skill. Sure. I don't think that's what he's asking here. I think what he's asking here is more along the lines of, is your ability to read a skill that can be learned? Also, I think yes. Because here's the thing. When I tell people I've read 60-some books or whatever, I've often gotten responses like, I can't do that. I can't stay focused. I can't sit for that long. I can't whatever. There's a lot of I can'ts. And I get it. Like, it's challenging. And here's where my thoughts on this come in. In every other aspect of my life, literally everything I do is riddled with intrusive thoughts and momentary reactions and immediate needs and adjustments, whatever you want to call it. Like, full-on ADHD brain when I'm not reading. When I'm doing anything else in life, I fiddle, I fidget, I get up and move and do something, and oh my God, I forgot to do this thing, and I'm all over the place. But reading, I can sit and do for hours. And I think that starts with a little bit of willpower. It starts with a little bit of, like, I'm going to sit and do this. But you have to be really honest with yourself. You have to be willing to recognize, oh, I'm not reading right now. I've just scammed these words for 2 pages, but I haven't retained any of that. And you have to stop and go back and read it again. And you have to be able to accept that and not get frustrated about it. To me, the skill of being able to read for long periods of time is the same skill that I use in meditation. It's the same thing. I meditate almost every day. I used to say daily. I can't say that anymore. It's almost every day. I meditate for at least 20 minutes. And when I say I meditate, I'm not talking about some hokey, like, pseudo-religious practice. I'm talking about I clear my thoughts. And often my meditations are meditating on a thought, like on an idea, or they're meditating on my breath, or a repetitive sound, or my environment, or I'm just exploring my senses. I'm controlling what I'm thinking about. But the secret is, I can't do that for 20 minutes. I can do it in short sessions, and that's okay. The secret is recognizing when suddenly I'm concentrating on my breath and then my brain drifts, my brain gets bored of that, recognizing that and pulling my attention back to my breath. That's the skill. And that's the same skill I'm talking about reading. When you sit to read and your mind starts to wander, you need to recognize it. And you need to train yourself to recognize it. And that is the skill that you can learn. And what will happen is as you kind of, okay, let's go back to reading, let's go back to reading, let's go back to reading, those times that you can sit and focus really start to lengthen. They start to become a more lengthily. I don't know where I was headed with that. And like any skill, like any muscle, like anything, that can also atrophy if you stop. If you stop reading or if you stop focusing and you don't let yourself take control, it can happen. I find that the more I allow myself to be distracted in my personal life, the more I find myself being distracted when reading. If I take control and I kind of push myself in my personal life to concentrate on work, concentrate on whatever, I can get really lost in reading. And I can read for the entire day. We'll like wake up to go to sleep, I can read. And it's just practice, you know? Obviously, there's the biggest help would be finding something that you enjoy reading. Finding something that is engaging. I like to read a lot of mysteries and thrillers and horror stories, things with a lot of tension, things with a lot of cliffhangers. I love authors who every chapter ends on something that, like a question that you need to keep reading to figure out, and then you're just compelled. Or like anything that pushes you like that can help with this technique. If you're reading, nonfiction or maybe even reference materials because you're trying to learn, well, that's an entirely different skill. And for me, when I'm doing those things, it's about taking notes. Because taking notes keeps me engaged in the reading. Instead of just going, ugh, and reading word vomit on a page, actively taking notes, actively participating in the text is how I maintain focus doing that. I don't read a lot of those books. I do read some self-help-ish type stuff, at least some thought-provoking books. This year I've read a few of those. And they can be dry and boring, but if I'm taking notes, if I'm actively reading, like I would actively listen to a lecture, I can stay in it. But it is absolutely a skill. It's something you have to be willing to practice. And you have to be dedicated to doing. It's not something that's just going to happen for you, I don't think. That being said, there will be, this year I've read 63, I think, books. Last year I read, I think it was around 20, like 17, 18, 19, 20-ish books last year. And the year before that, I don't know that I read very many at all. Like there are times when I get into a reading crunch and I just breeze. This year it was spawned by my back injury in January. I pretty much laid on the couch for like a month and a half and just read. And I had 30 or so of the 60 books. I read half of the books that I've read this year in that first 6 weeks, maybe 2 months. These last few months, I've read like 1 or 2 books a month. It's just been kind of enjoying, casually reading, picking the thing up, reading a few pages each day. Right now I'm reading a story collection, so I'll read like a story a day. They're 10-page stories or something. And that's a very enjoyable time for me as well. But the secret, or there is no secret, just like everything, it's you just have to do it, is to find something. For me, the kind of magic is to find what you enjoy reading and what keeps you engaged, and then read more of those. And then once you've read more of those and you've dove in and you're now reading your 5th or 6th book in a row, you'll find that you can venture a little bit further. I have found books in my past that I tried to read that were just, I was not in the right headspace to read them, or I had not been reading. My reading muscles had not been exercised for a while, and it was a struggle to get through. I've come back to those books after like a month of binge reading, and I found them to be super enjoyable and very easy to read, and it wasn't an issue at all. So find the books that are resonating with you right now, read 5 of those books, and then see what happens. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for the question. If you guys have questions, I would love to hear them. I love answering questions. I don't always have the answers, but I'll try. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's 1,000+ little things happy, successful people do differently. We are still learning about finding gratitude when everything goes wrong. Number 5, find gratitude amid health problems. A couple of years ago, on the second to last day of her life, a close friend of ours shared that her only regret was that she didn't appreciate every year with the same passion and purpose that she had in the last 2 years of her life. After she was diagnosed with terminal cancer, I've accomplished so much recently. I truly appreciated every step, she said. If I had only known, I would have started sooner. Her words made us cry and smile at the same time. What was truly miraculous was seeing the genuine gratitude in her eyes that moment. And her sentiment has always remained with us. So while health problems are never fun, the pain can be mediated by a sense of gratitude for having a chance to move forward on our own terms, having a life worth living from moment to precious moment. Man, that's powerful. My whole life, I have carried this sentiment of I only get, at best 80 summers. I only get 80 winters. I only get 80 birthdays, whatever it is, whatever your thing is. There's only that's not a very big number. It's a pretty small number. And sure, it's a large number of days when you extrapolate that out, but it's important to keep in mind. Like, I'm only going to experience 80 falls in my life, and I love fall. It's my favorite. What am I going to do this fall? I don't know yet. But wasting it seems terrifying.